Greetings, 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 greetings. It is I, your King Clifford Jefferson. I send the Godfrey, the fifth counterband juice on the folk will of Jerusalem, the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful, which we know is our Jesus Christ. I'm here again with another marvelous lesson, just a continuous talk about all the things that I've talked about thus far on our platform. Once again, this particular one is for all those who claim to be descendants of the 12 tribes, descended down from King David. This goes for the Israelite tribes, as well as those who are considered to be the 12 tribes extending from Beta Israel, which goes back to the Ethiopian Jews. All right, so for all those who claim to be of the 12 tribes, where you're coming from the biblical aspect of it, or you come from the cultural aspect, or from those of the Ethiopian, this lesson's for you. All right. I want to give a shout out to Brother Milligan, whose former name is Mutaka Bay, but his English name is Brother Milligan from the House of Milligan. I know he's been doing his diligence to be able to spread the English heritage to all those unbeknown to this illustrious history. So I'm going to assist you in that cause today. I hope all those who are viewing will pay homage and give honor to the wisdom that comes forth. Once again, I am the reincarnation of King Edgar the Peaceful. And King Edgar the Peaceful is the King of Peace. Let me just show you. All right, as you can see here, King Edgar the Peaceful. This is him. This is the Abbey. All right, and this is me. I am the personification, the incarnation, or the incarnation, the personification, or the representation. There's another one I was going to say. Incarnation, personification. All right, so on personification, incarnation, representation, you know, in regards to this person who represents the image or Christ-like image, okay? And that figure is none other than King Edgar the Peaceful, all right? So everyone who's know the history in regards to this Jesus Christ, I, the King of Peace, names will be written in the what we call the Lamb's Book of Life, or we call it the New Ministers Liber Vitae. Once again, New Ministers Liber Vitae. 1 second. New Minister Liber Vitae. So let's just really get a good look at that picture. You see, I look similar to this this king in this picture. All right, look very similar. Everybody take a couple of seconds to look at it. Of course, I don't have my locks now. I have them in the drawer. I'm planning on reattaching them. As you can see, my locks there, and the depiction of the being in the background, i.e., King Edgar, King Jefferson, or King Edgar the Peaceful. His luminous glow is that of what we call represent the white, or the whiteness, purity. Okay. So white had a significant reason once you understand who you are in regards to the status that the so-called colonists, founding fathers, 13 colonies, now called the 13 states, now called the United States, under the Naturalization Act of 1790, they chose this term, free white person, Caucasian. All these terms they chose for a reason, but it had nothing to do with genealogy or ethnicity. There's a reason for that. All right. So once again, I am the reincarnation of this king known as King Edgar the Peaceful. All right. I'm going to show you another depiction of him. As you can see, I turn to the side. That's me all day long. All right, that's me all day long. This image right here of Christ, and as I showed you in the image here, are the same person. All right, are the same person. So wrap your head around that. This takes me here. Hey, Coco. As you can see, this person down here is King Edgar the Peaceful. There's St. Peter, there's the Virgin Mary. That is the image of Christ, all right, on the throne, suspended, surrounded by angels, all right, the four living creatures, all right, that goes into Ezekiel's will, all right. So this King Edgar the Peaceful, as depicted in the New Minister Charter, is actually the King Edgar the Peaceful that I showed you on All Souls College, which actually looks just like me, as you can see in the image I showed you in the previous two showings. All right. So image is everything. All right. It also represents the Minister of Liberté. All right. New Minister of Liberté, i.e. the Book of Life. New Minister Book of Life is a confraternity book produced in Winchester in the southern England in 1031. It records the names of visitors to the New Minister of Winchester. It contains other information too, as well as the contemporary image of King Canute the Great and his second wife, King Normandy, below right. All right. Right here. Below right. Emma Normandy and Canute the Great give an honor to King Edgar the Peaceful, King of Wessex. As you can see in this Book of Life, the Book of Life is open. King Edgar represents the image of Christ, and the time of the Middle Ages is represented by Saint Peter and Mary. All right, as you can see, Emma Normandy was the wife of, as you can see here, Jesus Christ's son. King Edgar the Peaceful, known as Jesus Christ's son, all right, which was known as King Ethelred the Unready. Hence the word aíthō. We know Etheling means noble family or belonging to the noble family, all right? As you can see, Ethelred the Unready. Ethelred. As you look at the depiction, look at the colorization on the face. Look at the sword. Look at the lightning depiction on the sword. But look at the background. Stars. Very, very, very important. He's enthroned on a seat or what we call a throne, and he's in some type of out there suspended amongst the stars. All right, suspended amongst the stars. Aîthō. All right, Aithō the second, known as Aithō the was king of England from 978 to 1030 to 1013, and again from 1014 until his death 1016. Aithō was the son of King Edgar the Peaceful and Queen Elspeth. He came to the throne by age of 12 following the assassination of his older brother, King Edward the Martyr. Okay, King Edward the Martyr. Who was that? King Edward the Martyr. All right, so as we can see that, Aithō the Unready was married to Emma of Normandy, and Aithō the Unready was the son of Jesus Christ. Okay, he was the son of Jesus Christ, King Edgar the Peaceful, or King of Peace, i.e. Melchizedek, or the King of Salem. All right, let's go here. So we know in the red-brown.As, referring to the book of life, right? We referring to the book of life, and all those who are written in this book of life, according to the story surrounding Jesus Christ, shall be in your memory. So one thing we need to understand is that everything that we do is based off memory. Memory. Memorializing memory, things that you seen, heard, or visited, whatever it was, is all based off memory, because based off that experience, it becomes a part of your memory. We can all agree about that. All right, so it's very important about what you here on this plane subject yourself to, because everything is based off seeing. Seeing is based off light. You know, light is finite. You know, light is finite. Everything that you see based off what you call light is finite, because as soon as you close your eyes, that what you see, which we call light, is gone. Everybody close their eyes. You can't see anything. The only thing you do see is what they call dark matter. All you see when your eyes is shut, because light cannot be absorbed by matter. It can only reflect light. So when you close your eyes, that light, which is subject to a vacuum, is shut off. When you close your eyes, that light is a vacuum. When you close your eyes, that vacuum is your eyes. When you close your eyes, the light is shut off. Now all you see is what they call dark matter. It's matter. And you're there witnessing, viewing the matter, not from the light perspective, from seeing, but from the mental perspective, i.e. mental image. You have a visual image and you have a mental image. The mental image is based off your understanding of you as being of a sound mind. Because we know sound is vibration. Vibration is the frequency. Frequency is a signal. A signal is a wave that has a wavelength. All right. So when you understand what it is that I'm talking to you based off the frequency, i.e. ELF waves, electromagnetism waves, right? Travel to what we call luminospheric ether, all right? i.e. ethylene, the noble family, we experienced that. So in order for you to understand that you're a part of this etheric family, you must understand what I'm talking about today, all right? Because the information is not new. There's nothing new under the sun, all right? Once again, as you can see, after we're done ready, it's suspended amongst the stars. And he's apparently in what we call the mothership or the kingship. Very, very, very important. While we're talking about that, let's go ahead. The other day, went outside to walk my dog, and this is what I seen. Everybody see that? Yes. What I seen when I walked outside was lights, or what it looked like a ladder to me from where it seemed in the sky, but it was illuminating. So when I went inside to get my wife, Sister Godwinson, she was taking the sweet time coming outside. When I came out the second time, I could still see it, but it cloaked. As soon as she stepped outside of the door, it went cloaked. So I couldn't believe that I actually seen it. I didn't take the picture. I actually seen the events. I seen it go cloaked. So she went on back in the house, and I continued to walk my dog. When I walk around the front, with another gentleman who always sitting outside in his vehicle. Live across. I live in an apartment complex, and he's on the left-hand side of the street. And when I walked around to walk my dog, he said, "Did you see that?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "What did you see?" He said, "You tell me what you saw." I said, I saw a string of lights coming this way. And that's exactly what he saw. He didn't have a camera. So we talked about it for a couple of minutes. Even the neighbor upside from him, her name is Steph. We were telling her about it. So once we finished our conversation, I went on and continued to walk with my dog. And I went back the opposite way around the back of my building, going down further to the same type of building complexes. And there was another gentleman, he's the son of a lady named Mary. It's her son. He works construction. And he calls me over. He said, "Claire, check this out." And I said, he was taking on his phone. I said, "Please don't tell me that you got a shot of that." He said, "Yes, I did. And this is the shot that he got." So I didn't take the photo, nor the other brother who took the photo. It was a European brother who took the photo. Once again, his name was Jason, the son of Mary, who lived in our complex as well. But he actually took the actual photo. And this is the photo that we shot. Right? And I actually seen this particular, whatever it was, go cloak. And it was in this atmosphere. It was in this Earth atmosphere. It wasn't outside of the terrestrial sphere. Because if that was the case, we could see all the satellites that's out there. So how is it by chance that I'm able to see, if this is what they're calling it, starlight satellites, then how was I able to see it within the terrestrial sphere? Because it was flying at the altitudes of planes. It was actually flying at the altitudes of planes. In order for a plane to fly, it needs velocity and speed to give it its lift. All right. This was not traveling at the speed of what we call aircraft. This particular object was sort of hovering, or a type of movement that denotes to some type of aircraft that's not known. As we can see, the length of the object that was photographed, as well as the lights that were taken. Now, there was an article taken in regards to this by New Jersey. Okay. Okay, everyone can see that. New Jersey UFO scares turned out to be Elon Musk Starlink satellite launch. That's what they're saying. Now, I seen this thing on the 19th. The article that I seen came out on the 16th. This is one post. I seen it in another post. All right. So this wasn't the first time this thing was seen. All right. New Jersey residents were given a space age scare when they spotted a lone Elon Musk Starlink satellite hovering over the Garden State as the aerospace company launched its latest batch of devices into orbit. All right. In order to go into orbit, it's got to be by way of some type of system that gives it the combustion to be able to move at the velocity needed to make that type of trip. All right. When I seen it, it wasn't going up. It was coming. It wasn't coming down. It was traveling on the vertical sphere. It was going this way. When I seen it, it was coming. It was coming this way. When I went outside, it was coming towards me, and was flying at the altitudes where we said planes and birds. And when I came out the second time, to show my wife, it must have knew we were looking at it because it cloaked right in front of my face. It didn't go. It didn't take any upward trajectory. It didn't take any downward trajectory. It just simply went cloaked. All right. So whatever they're trying to say in regards to Starlink by Elon Musk is a lie. It's a straight lie because I seen it for myself. Everyone who thinks that the picture I showed them was false, that's up to you. But like I said, I seen it and two other individuals seen it. And the photo that I showed you is from an individual who actually took the actual photo. All right. And then all of a sudden now I'm seeing in the New York Post that was seen as well. All right. Look at some of the images that they show you. All right. They're saying that it's Elon satellite launch. So how is it being launched in space? Because this first let's visit what it looks like outside this terrestrial sphere. Let's see what it looks like. All right. 50 Starlink satellites shortly before deployment to low Earth orbit in 2019. All right. It's when they say below orbit, that means it's up to the sublunary sphere, i.e., meaning everything below the moon. All right. But it's not within the terrestrial sphere, which we see now. All right. When I seen it, it was inside Earth's terrestrial sphere. When my man seen it, it was inside Earth's terrestrial sphere. When the photo was taken by my other friend, it was inside Earth's terrestrial sphere. Anything flying in Earth's terrestrial sphere needs to be flying under some type of velocity at some type of speed to give it the trajectory, the velocity to be able to go where it needs to go. It just can't suspend itself in air. All right. And the velocity that I seen it moving was not at the speed of an airplane, a jet, or anything of that magnitude. And we, as we see here, as the object is floating in space, is not subject to any type of velocity. As we see it now, it's just suspended in air, moving in the space that's given to them as a subject to the gravitational pull of the Earth, just like everything else, i.e. the moon. All right, everybody needs to understand that. So England, they are blaming what I seen with my physical eyes on something that was created by Elon Musk, who has some type of affiliation, what we call SpaceX, aerospace, etc. But you're still limited. You're still limited in your understanding about things outside the terrestrial sphere. All right. When I seen this thing, as I said, it went cloaked. Other gentlemen said it went cloaked. The one who took the photo said it went cloaked. Satellites don't go cloaked. It does not go cloaked. So Elon Musk or whoever's reporting what we see, which we know is a lie, needs to explain how that object simply with Musk cloak, because it was seen not just here in this particular territorial sphere within the sphere, it was seen in Japan as well. All right, so let's go back to the article. As you can see, there's another photo here. It looks similar to mine. It looks similar to mine. I don't know who took this photo right here. I do not know who took this photo. But as you can see, this photo is going up. The one I seen wasn't coming up. Let me go back to my photo. Oh, guess what? It's about the same. Okay, it's about the same. All right, both photos. So it might have been the guy who took this photo, my friend, because these pictures are basically the same as I'm showing you. The pictures look just the same, exactly the same, provided by New York Post. Dozens of lights were seen soaring in a straight line over New Jersey on Saturday. Analog HCBA Getty images. So this image took by that and the image took by my friend are basically one and the same image. But I actually seen this image and I seen this image go close. Satellites do not go close. They do not disappear. So I'm left at a discrepancy right there. All right. But for the sake of this lesson, let's move forward. Let's deal with the starting of creation, 6,000 years. All right. Let's deal with the 6,000 years of what we told was our creation story. For all those who concerned, this concerns Buddhists, Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Jewish people, Northerns, Taoists, Zoroastrians, and everybody else who had something to do with their creation story pertaining to the 6,000 year period. All right. When I say 6,000 year period, I'm talking about the creation of heaven and earth. All right. Hold that thought. Okay. All right. So according to classical Jewish sources, the Hebrew year marked the latest time for the initiation of the coming of the Messiah's age. The Talmud, the Midrash, and the Zohar states that the date by which the Messiah will appear is 6,000 years from creation. We know one day to the Creator is like 1,000 years. One day of of the creator is like 1,000 years. All right. King Edward was born in 943 AD. All right. And he died in 975. His laws remained in place till 1974. Once again, his laws remained in effect till 1974. I was born in 1970. All right. Everybody needs to get this book. Root of the Clan. Get this book. Sorry. Root of the Clan by Mark Weiner. Get it. Very interesting book. All right. But we're not going based off any abstract, though. We want to prove this based off record. Record means time, right? We know time determines the space or the gap between time, space and time. And based off our understanding, there's a missing gap of information between the beginning of time and the where we're at now. So that means there's a space which creates distance, all right? Space and time. All right, we know space and time is composed of what we call matter, because what we see within that space and time are events that were composed of what we see as a result of what we call matter. All right, matter. According to traditional Hebrew calendar, starts at the creation, placed at 3761 BC. The current 2023 or 2024 Hebrew year is 5784 AD, Annos Dominos. By this calculation, the end of the 6th year would occur at nightfall of the 16th of September 2240 on the Gregorian calendar. All right, we're in the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar, the year is 2023. All right, so they're saying that the end of the 6th year will be the year 2240. All right, and it's at the beginning of creation when God created heaven and earth started in 3761. All right, everyone needs to take that into account. Everyone needs to take that into account. Seriously. All right, into account, y'all. Going to this Hebrew calendar started at the time of creation. All right, states that the date by which the Messiah will appear is 6,000 years from creation. So creation and the Hebrew story that involved the Ethiopians, the Israelites, and everybody else who claimed to be descendants of God starts in the 6,000 year period. All right. According to the Gregorian calendar, and the Gregorian calendar was created by Pope Gregory XIII. Pope Gregory XIII descended down from Pope Gregory I, and Pope Gregory I had all the Anglo-Saxon converted to what we call Christianity. Very important. They moved from the custom, and then it went to what we call a belief or faith. All right, we must understand that. The Gregorian calendar, which we are and use today, came from what we call the Berber calendar. Once again, the Gregorian calendar, which was predated by the Julian calendar, all got their start from what we call the Berber calendar. All right, BC means Berber calendar, not before Christ. It means Berber calendar. Christ didn't come until AD, Annos Dominos, in the year of our Lord. We must understand that terminology, or else you'll be lost in the sauce. All right. So the law is not biased to any group, whether you are part of any of these 8 groups. You need to understand what I'm talking about today. All right. You really need to understand what I'm talking about, because your creation story starts in, as they said, on the Julian calendar, 3761. 3761. And in 2023, the year of your ending will be the year 5784, which under the Hebrew calendar you're in now. You're in 5784 right now. And the Anglo-Saxon Berber year is actually 2974. That's our year, 2974. So let's qualify this. I don't want to care about what you believe in, what you hope in. That's irrelevant. AD or 1 CE is Christian era. AD Annus Dominius within the Christian era is an epoch year for Annus Dominius Christian calendar era, i.e. calendar. You need a calendar. Every nation, every country has their own calendar. All right, let's prove it. Take your pick. You got the Gregorian calendar, and we know Gregorian calendar created by Pope Gregory XIII. You got early conditioner, Assyrian calendar, Valencia, Saka calendar, Bengal calendar, Berber calendar. So that's our calendar, 951, right? That's our calendar and the time of the year 1 AD, all right? What is it in the Ethiopian year? Ethiopians don't even have a calendar, right? The Ethiopian Jews don't even have a calendar. And the Jewish calendar, i.e. the Hebrews, calendar starts in 3761. That's the beginning of creation of heaven and earth. So if that's the case, then how could the Berber calendar be in existence there if heaven and earth is being started then? Please answer that. Anybody with common sense need to answer that. Because in 951, guess who's about to come to rule? King Edgar the Peaceful. He became king in 959. He was born in 943, became king in 959. Right? 959. That's the beginning of creation according to the Hebrews. So in their eyes, he should be their God. This should be your God. Okay, so we know in the year 951, it's the time of the Berber calendar, right? But you don't see an English calendar there, do you? Not at all. You don't see an English calendar there because the Anglo-Saxon Berbers were the English, right? The Anglo-Saxon Berbers were the English. I'm going to prove it. So let's cancel out the Hebrews and the Ethiopians because they were claimed to be descendants of the 12 tribes. Whether you're coming from an Ethiopian understanding or coming from a Hebrew understanding, y'all are both confused until this day. Why? Because you don't understand who you were prior to your creation story. I always say, he who writes your books set your timeline. He who writes your books set your timeline. We know in 950, we know in AD, 1 AD, we know in the Berber years 951. And at that time, King Edgar the Peaceful was about to rule. Prior to him, the other English kings of Wessex are ruling. All right. We can prove that. History records that. All right. But the abstract story for the Hebrews and the Ethiopians is not quite clear. It's not quite clear. So let's clear it up. Let's deal with it from a noble state, because we know Aslan means noble, right? Part of the noble family, and Ain means belonging to. We know Jesus Christ was a noble family. His family member was King Athawet the Unready. Even though he wasn't ready to rule, he was still part of the noble family. All right. Athlete, a medieval science. So here we go. According to the term ether, or ether or ether, E-T-H-E-R, is a medieval science. It's not a modern science. It is medieval science. It didn't say going back to Aristotle, going back to any of those Greek philosophers or Roman philosophers. It said it is a medieval science. All right. When I look at my understanding about who I am, I must look at it from the medieval science of my ancestors, not nobody else. From the medieval understanding of my ancestors, because I'm an English heir. All right. I'm an English Anglo-Saxon Berber. That's who I claim to be. All right. So let's make the link. Let's start from the myth and bring it concrete, because the concrete is to go from the elements. All right. Because we all say we come from nature, and nature is composed of elements. We know that the 5 gases composed to this terrestrial sphere, which is subject to the subluminary sphere, i.e. the moon, is all subject to what we call the etheric realm, or etheric realm, as I said. All right. That's what we call luminous spheres ether. All right. That took the place of space, where the space was created to create matter, which consists of solid, liquid, gas, and solid, liquid, gas, and water, which this planet is composed of, i.e. the terrestrial sphere. So according to medieval science, according to my ancestors, all right, in medieval days, this ether was composed of the 5th element, all right? They say it was also called a luminous spheres ether. And this luminous spheres ether is this fluid that filled empty space. And it said that the planets swim in this ether, all right? All the planets that exist within the universe swim in this ether. We talked about this in the previous lectures. It said it is the material that fills the region of the universe beyond the terrestrial sphere. The terrestrial sphere is subject to the subluminary sphere. So if the subluminary sphere overrules the terrestrial sphere, and the ether is that which exists beyond both spheres, that means that it is the begetter. All right? Understand that, y'all. So that's from the element. Let's take it from the myth, because myth deals with something that at time out of mind. So time out of mind, it becomes folklore or mythology. All right? So in mythology, the word ether means pure, fresh air, which was that given to us as mortals to breathe, for it exists on this plane. That's not where we come from, because air is not ether, and ether is not air. All right? The Etherians created air for us to breathe as mortals here on this plane, as composed of matter, which gives the besides of what we call this burnt black looking characteristics, i.e. color. Is related to incinerate, or intransitive, to burn or to shine. Hence the word Aithíops, Ethiopian, or Aithiopia. All right. Hence the word Aithíopians, Greek, Ethiopians, English, and Aithiopia. Ethiopia goes back to what we call Berbers or Libyan Berbers. All right. This goes back to all the so-called time that you want to call Egyptian time, etc. But what you're doing is you're trying to take your time, take yourself back there without the transitive medium to do so. You're trying to bend time and space without the transmission medium to do so. And the transmission medium is only the information that gives you the ability to be able to bend time and space. And we know time and space is based off distance from point of origin, your home. So if you're claiming that you are the people of what we call with their burned black facades, then you must first understand the origin of what we call Ethiopia. Not the people who are living there, not the land itself, but the origin of the term Ethiopia versus the word Ethiopians. All right? So let's take us through that. Ethiopia. Origin of the name. The Greek name Aithiop's or Ethiopian is compound word later explained as derived from Greek word meaning burnt face. I burnt face. According to Liddell Scott Jones Greek English lexicon, the designation properly translates as burnt face. It is a noun form and red brown in the adjective form. Everybody see that? Burnt face. So it meant burnt first, then you must go back to what gives you ability to have this burnt face. Because the more ultraviolet rays that you take in, the more darker you become. Right? You don't get burned as a result of it because you're able to your melanin, your melanocytes has the ability to protect you because sunburn and melanocytes is synonymous. You're protected. Your melanin prevents you from being subject to the ultraviolet rays that's given by the sun because that's where you originated from. You only was subject to this plane by way of you being imprisoned by the cut off of the information that comes through what you call your cellular. Because transmission medium means information that's transported by telecommunication. Ain't nobody picking up the phone and telling yourself what to do. It's done by telecommunication. Your cellular structure receives information based off what it was designed to do here on this plane of thing being manifested. All right. So we know the word Ethiopia means I burnt face. All right. All the other stuff we're not getting into. All right. Ethiopia. Because we said the word ether and elements and mythology goes to those who call themselves Ethiopians or Ethiopia. All right. As interpreted by the Greeks, if they ever existed. All right. So Ethiopia. Once again, he who writes your books sets your timeline. Greek, Ethiopia, also known as Ethiopia, first appears as a geographical term in classical documents in reference to the Upper Nile region of Sudan, as well as certain areas south of the Sahara. Its earliest mention is the work of Homer, twice in the Iliad and 3 times in the Odyssey. The Greek historian Herodotus specifically used the appellation to refer to such parts of the sub-Saharan Africa as were then known within the inhabited world. You hear that? Ethiopia. Etymology. The Greek name Ethiopia goes back once again on the ether element, mean I burn or face. I burn or face. It also says here, with an expansion of geographical knowledge, the exonym successfully extended to certain other areas below the Sahara. In classical antiquity, the term Africa or ancient Libya did not refer to any part of sub-Saharan Africa, but instead to what is known as the Maghreb and all the desert land west to the southern Nile River. So Ethiopians were also known as the ancient Libyans. the name. During the Iron Age, the classical antiquity, Libya, which came from Berber, Lebu, referred to modern-day Africa west of the Nile River. Greek and Roman geographical placed the divided line between Libya, Africa, and Asia at the Nile. All right? You're talking what we call a globus. You're talking about the what we call the crucifix globus. All right? You got Europe, Africa, and Asia. Europe, Africa, and Asia. North America will be considered part of Europe. It's not a part of Africa. It's not a part of Asia. All right, because North America is considered what we call the New World. They claim it was never even known about, and the only person that knew about it, according to under the what we call the laws governing the age of discovery or laws governing conquest, was we call Europe. We know Europe was composed of, according to proof, was Spain and France. Spain and France. Then you have what we call the British Empire. And Spain and France had jurisdiction over all continents prior to this history that we know now was recorded. Once again, Spain and France had a more diverse history in North America as regards to North America, as well as the other continents known as what we call European continent, as well as the African continent, as what we call the Asian continent, which are all connected. They are all connected. All right. It says, which came from Berber, Lebu, referred to modern-day Africa, west of the Nile River. Greek and Roman geographical place, a dividing line between Libya, Africa, and Asia of the Nile. Asia of the Nile. Okay, so let's look up the Berber name again. We want to be specific. We just want to be using names and trying to apply them to things that are not associated with the name, because this is not an Arabic name. Berber is not an Arabic name. It's not a Muslim name. There's English letters. Berber. Origin, English. As you can see the fleur-de-lises of France. The history name Berber begins with the Anglo-Saxon tribe. Did you hear that? The Anglo-Saxon tribe is derived from the baptismal, i.e. baptismal, we know it had to deal with the Christianity faith or the symbolism that was adopted by Christianity in regards to the anointing. It says name meaning Santa Barbara. In some instances, the name may have also meant a nickname for someone, such as a Moor or Berber, who appeared to be of North African heritage. In such case, the name in reference to the Barbarian coast of North Africa. All right? Everybody needs to understand that. Another source notes that the name may be Norman in origin, as it's noted to Barbary, famous old fortress abbey in Paris near Fallacy in Normandy. All right? Why is this very important? Because we wouldn't understand how the Berber and the Anglo-Saxons are connected. Nobody knows that. Nobody knows that. How are they connected? When did the conflicts between the Anglo-Saxons and the people on that continent known as North Africa come to manifestation? Where did the conflict come from? All right, because we know Jerusalem goes back to what we said, represented by King Agrippina, means the king of peace. And he ruled in 959 to 975. We know the Holy Sepulchre, all right, the Holy Sepulchre under Bullion was to protect that peace. All right. We know all those were the result of what we call the Crusade Wars. From the first crusade all the way to the 8th crusade. And these crusades resulted from the protectors of that holy place, which were the Plantagenet crown under Godfrey V, Count of Anjou, and his descendants. But when they started warring amongst themselves under what we call the House of the Yorks and Lancasters, you get into the descendants of what we call Edward I. All right. At the time of Edward I, they were warring with the Capitan dynasty because, as I said, the Capitan Plantagenet War was called the 100-Year War. The 100-Year War was called the Wars of the Capitan Plantagenet dynasties. All right, not just over there on that particular territory, but here as well, because Francis I was descended down from the cadet branch that descended down from what we call the Capitan branches, from the House of Aithiopia. All right, we already discussed that. I'm not going to go into that. But let's deal with the conflict of how the Anglo-Saxon Berbers of English descendants became subject of those who put us in slavery. All right, not just there in England, not just here in what we call North America, but in the Holy Land. Not just in the Holy Land, let's go to the 7th Crusade, but we get into Africa as well. That's the 8th Crusade. All right. Most of y'all haven't heard or know anything about the 8th Crusade. All right. How we got in this position right now. Well, let's follow the rabbit hole. So we know that Ethiopia is also Aethiopia, which goes back to the Libyan Berbers. All right. We go back to the Libyan Berbers. We know concerning St. George, everybody know who St. George, he was soon to be the patron saint of Georgia, right? That's the red cross with the white background. That's the flag representing St. George. The patron saint of England was Edward the Confessor. He was the true patron saint of England. And the banner of England was what you see flying behind us. All right, the 3 lions. Not the flag of St. George, what you see here. That's the flag of St. George. And I'm gonna make the connection in a second. All right. Let's go back to what we said, Ethiopia. Ethiopia was also called Aithiopia. And Ethiopia was associated with what they call the ancient Libyans. Right? They were associated with the ancient Libyans. As you can see here. Ancient Libyans. Ethiopia. Okay. Now, in modern day, this comes to be what we call Ethiopia. What's that? Right here. Now it's called Ethiopia. Very, very, very important. You see the flag. All right, everyone sees the flag. It's a green, yellow, and red flag with a blue spear with a 5-pointed pentagram in it. All right, we see that. Its formation extended from what we call the Ethiopian Empire, which was established in 1270 AD. The Ethiopian Empire was established in 1270 AD. That's the beginning of your history as Ethiopian. But before that, you come from Ethiopians, which means those ancient Berbers. All right, those ancient Berbers with the dark face, right? And you were composed of the elements because that's the origin where you stem from. All right? That was the avatar that you know, because why? The avatar protect you. right? When you got a spacesuit, it protects you from the elements outside of those that protect you inside that spacesuit, which is air. Because you're going to spacesuit, you need to be, you got to breathe air, right? So if we're on this element, on this plane, and we walk around with this body and it breathes in air, wouldn't that make it symbolic of what we call a spacesuit? Right? It has the same origin. It's just modified. All right. So Ethiopians are the kingdom of the state, what you call today, stemmed from what we call the Ethiopian Empire, which only goes back to 1270 AD. We know that 1 AD, there is no Ethiopian Empire. Right? We know that in 1 AD, the Hebrews and the 12 tribes, or the Beta Jews, the 12 tribes, are not in existence because creation is not even created. Creation and life is not even existing at that particular time. But the English kingdom is. The English custom traditions are there. It's in 951 at that particular time. I just proved it to you. Who can dispute this? This is weird in the year 2973. That's the year we are in today. In 951, in the Berber year, King Edgar was ruling, but he was a Berber king. The English stuff didn't come until William the Conqueror invaded Normandy. So that's when we became English. That's when we became English. But this language that we speak was still the same. It was still the same. We were angelic beings. Why? Because we go back to Aether. Ethiopia is -7, -6. So if the Ethiopian empire was established in 1270 AD, then where were you back in 951 under the Gregorian calendar? Because in the Gregorian calendar, 1 AD is actually 951 in the Berber calendar. And we are existing at that particular time. We know the Berbers go back to Ethiopian, right? Going back to the element. Because we existed before 1270. 1270 goes back to what we call the temple, what we call the Solomonistic dynasty under the Ethiopian Empire. That goes back to what we call Haile Selassie. Y'all better do your research. This all goes back to Jerusalem. All go back to Jerusalem. All of them claim to be descendants of Jerusalem. Abstract. You know, Jerusalem in the concrete automatically goes back to Garfield-Bouillon. And Garfield-Bouillon, father was Eustace II, who married Gold of England, the son of Ethelred the Unready. And I just showed you Ethelred the Unready sitting in a dome amongst the stars, who was the son of Jesus Christ, i.e. King Edgar the Peaceful. Right, who is said to come back from beyond the stars, back here in this present day. I have come, right, which is information to reveal back to you. So the Solomonic dynasty, also known as the House of Solomon. Did y'all hear that? All you Bible scholars? Was the ruling dynasty of the Ethiopian Empire from the 13th to the 20th century. The dynasty was founded by Yekuno Emlak, who overthrew the Zagwe dynasty in 1270. So before the Kingdom of Solomon dynasty even came into play, there was a dynasty already in place there called the Zagwe dynasty in 1270. All right, in 1270, his successors claimed he was descended from the legendary king Menelik I, the supposed son of the biblical King Solomon and Queen of Sheba. Once again, Solomon is the German name. In order to legitimize the dynasty's assumption of power. Although this claimed ancestry gave the dynasty its name, there is no credible, i.e. concrete evidence that the dynasty was descended from Solomon or the Davidic line. The Solomon dynasty remained in power until 1974, when his last emperor, Haile Selassie, was overthrown by Homer.The. Okay, so all those Ethiopians, you need to trace your ruler Haile Selassie back to what we call the Solomonic dynasty, which was predated by the Zagwe dynasty. Zagwe dynasty. All right, you got to know this. So let's check out the Zagwe dynasty. And we know the Solomonic dynasty under the empire, Ethiopian empire, didn't start till 1270 AD. All right? Didn't start till 1270 AD. The Zagwe dynasty was there before 1270 AD because they go back to 900 AD. All right? They go back to 900 AD. It says the Zagwe dynasty was an Agwa medieval dynasty that ruled the northern part of Ethiopia and Eritrea after the historical name of Lasta province. Central of Roha, later named Lalibela. It ruled large parts of the territory from approximately 900 to 1270 Christian era, when the last Zagwe king, Zal Lemanuk, was killed in battle by the forces of Amhara, king of Yevnu Emlak. The name of the dynasty is thought to derive from the ancient Gash phrase, the Agwa, meaning of the Agwa, in reference to the Marka Telki Hemnat, the founder of the dynasty. Zagwe's best known king was Gebre Meskel-Lebela, who is credited with having constructed the rock-hewn monolithic churches of Lelabela. All right? Who is this Gebre Meskel-Lebela? Look at him, y'all. Look at him. Y'all see that, right? Everybody see that? Negus. All right, King of Kings. All right, their history, custom, traditions goes back to, like I said, the 9th century AD. All right, it goes back to 9th century AD. We must understand that. That's very, very important for all those who call themselves Ethiopians, Jews, or those came to be Israelites descended down from Solomon, because we know Solomon and all those who believe that descended from Solomon in the Bible must go back to the Ethiopian Empire. All right, and the Ethiopian Empire was preceded by the Zagwe dynasty, which was occupying the territory before that. All right, and with that we go to what we call the Church of St. George, all right? Because the Church of St. George was built by the Zagwe dynasty. How we know that? Let's see. Everybody see that? In a couple of minutes, check it out. The Church of St. George, Amharic, is one of the 11 rock-hewn monolithic churches in Lalibela, a town in Amhara region of Ethiopia. Originally named Roha Warwa, the historic and religious site was named Lalibela after King Gebre Meskel Lalibela of the Zagwe dynasty, which we just showed you a picture of. The Church of St. George was carved downward from a type of volcanic tuff. This is the sole architectural material that was used in the structure. It was been dated to late 12th or early 13th century AD and thought to have been constructed during the reign of King Gabriel Meskel Lalibela of the late Zagwe dynasty. It is among the best known and last built of the 11 churches in the Lalibela area and has been referred to as the 8th wonder of the world. Lalibela, king of Ethiopia, sought to recreate Jerusalem and structured the church landscape and religious site in such a way as to achieve such a feat. Anybody hear that? According to the Ethiopian cultural history, so all those who are Ethiopian, who descended from the Beta Israelites, you should know this. According to the Ethiopian cultural history, Beta Georgis was built after King Gabriel Meskel Lalibela of the Zawi dynasty had a vision in which he was instructed to construct the church, St. George and God, and had both been referred to as the one who gave him the instructions. So all the Ethiopians, all those who descended from the Ethiopians, from the Ethiopian Empire, from the time of the Middle Ages, from 900, from 1270 up to this present day, all your belief and faith came by way of what we call envision to Gabriel by what we call St. George. Anybody know who St. George is? Let's see. There we go. This is the picture of St. George. All right. One is this picture right here. Died in 303 AD. All right. Died in 303 AD in Israel. All right. Now look at some of the stories that they spoke about. The dragon legend. Remember, the Zagwe built a church called the St. Augustine in regards to the vision that Gabriel received from God and St. George. And St. George was the one depicted as St. George and the dragon. All right. And we know St. George is the patron saint of what we call Georgia. And the Georgia flag you see is the flag with the white background with the Jerusalem cross depicted in red. And we know that the patron saint of England is not St. George, it's Edward the Confessor. It passed from Edward the Confessor to Godfrey V Caravan Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem, as a result of Matilda of Scotland, who married him in the first Matilda's Edward the Confessor relative and descendant, Margaret of Scotland, married Henry I, son of William the Conqueror, right? And William the Conqueror, son Henry I, was married to Margaret of Scotland, and Margaret of Scotland was the mother of Matilda, Empress Matilda. Empress Matilda married Godfrey V Caravan Jew, son of Folk, ruler of Jerusalem. All right, ruler of Jerusalem. So in legend, St. George is so venerated in Christianity defeats a dragon. The story goes that the dragon originally extorted tribute from villagers. When they ran out of livestock and trinkets for the dragon, they started giving up human tribute once a year, i.e. pledges. This was acceptable to the villagers until a princess was chosen as the next offering, all right? The saint thereupon rescues the princess and kills the dragon. The narrative was first set in Cappadocia and the earliest sources of the 11th, 12th century, but transferred to Libya. You hear that? And the 13th century, i.e. the Golden Legend. You hear that? So the St. George has something to do with Libya. We know Libyan was known as Ethiopia. Ancient Libya was known as Ethiopia. And we know those people of ancient Ethiopia were those descendants of what we call Aetherians. All right? We see this. We see the symbolatry. We see the metaphor that's put in place to hide this truth. All right, so we see St. George. St. George is not the patron saint of who we should be worshiping. But when they created the history in regards to how we should worship for those tribes known under the Ethiopian Empire, and even tribes before that, it was done under the auspices of the influence of Christianity, based off, as we said, Pope Gregory I. All right, because he had all those Anglo-Saxon Berbers commissioned to be Christianity, and we know those Anglo-Saxon Berbers were those who descended from what we call Aithiopia. Aithiopia is were known as a set deriving from the descendancy, as we say, cellular lineage goes back to what we said, our origin going back to our state of existence as Ethereans. All right, just existing and showing at the facade as what we exist in this present day. Only temporary though, only a temporary state. So let's get back. Okay, so we know that we see the connection between Ethiopia, Ethiopians, ancient Libya, and we know that these people who were known and called by these terms were those who had the ability to be able to absorb, not absorb, but be able to have a defense against at the ultraviolet rays, because the ultraviolet rays that we had the ability to be able to defense was a result of us being able to protect ourselves here on this plane, which we didn't originate from. So we just haven't experienced as spectators to learn what we need to learn to get back to where we originated from, and that's the etheric realm. All right, the etheric realm is very, very important. That's the reason why those who descended down from these schools that were taught by these people called Ethiopians, ancient Libyans, they're missing the missing key. They're missing the missing knowledge. The knowledge is about that space and time, or that gap in time and space that they didn't know about. All right? They're missing that information, and I'm giving that to you right now. How do I know that? That's why all those who came from those schools of thought, and the time we're speaking about going back to Solomon, all right, Solomon dynasty, as well as the Zagwe dynasty, and all those who descended down from them, all those who descended from Ethiopia went to other schools of thought. They went to other schools of thought. How we know that? Because you got one such as Adrian of what we call Cattenberry. Adrian of Cattenberry wasn't what we call a Libyan Berber. He was a Libyan Berber. How we know? Let's check him out. Hadrian, also spelled Hadrian, I hence the word Hadrian Wall, was a North African scholar in Anglo-Saxon England. You hear that? And be born before 637. All right. So if he came from Berber and he was born in 637, the Berber history still existed at that particular time, and it was associated with England, the Anglo-Saxons, and Ethiopia, or Israelites, was nowhere in the picture. All right, how? Because we know beads, the Venerians of beads record Adrian, spelled Hadrian, in their records. Okay, they claim in the ecclesiastical records, the records the known to the very recorded history of English people, he's recorded. It says Hadrian was a North African scholar of Anglo-Saxon England and an abbot of St. Peter's and St. Paul's, Canterbury. All right, that's St. Augustine. He was noted teacher and commentator of the Bible. Hadrian was born between 630 and 637. According to Bede, he was by nation an African and thus a Berber. native of North Africa and was an abbot of the monasteries near Nepal, called Monasterium Nidinum, perhaps a mistaken for Nisadanum, as being situated in the islands of Nisada. Okay. All right. Adrian, an Anglo-Saxon, and he was the abbot at St. Peter's and St. Paul's Cathedral. Okay, here we go. To the flourishing state of learning thus introduced into England and for a short time maintained, King Alfred appears to allude in the preface to his translation of Pope Gregory I's Liber Pastoralis Curae in the latter part of the 9th century, where he says that it often came into his mind what wise men there were in the country, both laymen and ecclesiastics in a former age, how the clergy in those happy times were diligent both to teach and to study, and how the foreigners then came hither to acquire learning and wisdom. Whereas now, in his own day, if any Englishman desired to make himself a scholar, he was obliged to go abroad for instructions. Did y'all hear that? We know Pope Gregory I was the one who had all of us converted to Christianity. Let's just qualify that. Pope Gregory I, commonly known as Saint Gregory the Great, was the Bishop of Rome from the 3rd of September 590 to his death. He is known for instituting the first recorded large-scale mission from Rome, the Gregorian mission, to convert then the largely pagan Anglo-Saxons to Christianity. Did you see that? So now we understand that Hadrian, Hadrian, an Ethiopian, came to get knowledge of self. He came to get knowledge of self as a result of what was done by Pope Gregory I. He came to get knowledge of self. And he studied where? In St. Peter's and St. Paul's and Canterbury. That's St. Augustine's Abbey. Who else is teaching you this? St. Augustine Abbey, found as the monastery of St. Peter or St. Paul and changed after Augustine's death, was a Benedictine monastery, i.e. school of black monks. Just prove it. Benedict officially order of St. Benedict, or a monastic religious order of the Catholic Church following the rules of St. Benedict. They are also sometimes called the Black Monks. Did you hear that? They are called the Black Monks. How much of a scholar you got to be to understand something that's so simple? All right. We know that these black monks in the monasteries, Adrian of Ethiopian was a part of. So he knew this science, so how come y'all don't? All right, how come I know it? The abbey was founded in 5898 and functioned as a monastery until its dissolution in 1538 during the English Reformation. After the abbey dissolution, it underwent dismantlement until 1848. Did y'all see that? 1848. All right, so we know that Adrian was confirmed by bees. Who is bees? Let's just get an idea. Bees are venereal. Bees, also known as Saint Bede, the venerable Bede, and Bede the Venerable, was an English monk and an author and scholar. He was one of the greatest teachers and writings during the early Middle Ages, and his most famous work, Ecclesiastical History of the English People. All right, so Ethiopian people who went to learn in these monasteries wanted to learn about the English people. Why? He said it gave him the title of the father of English history. He served at the monastery of St. Peter and the companion monastery of St. Paul and the kingdom of Northumbria of Angles. So we see Adrian of Hadrian went to study at this monastery. So he himself mother knew he was English. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. What is the ecclesiastical history of English people? What is that? It's not abstract, y'all. This is concrete. The ecclesiastical history of the English people, written by Bede in about AD 731, is a history of the Christian churches in England and of England generally. Its main focus is the conflict between the pre-schism Roman Rite and subsequent Christianity. It was composed in Latin and is believed to have been completed in 731 when Bede was approximately 59 years old. It is considered one of the most important original references of Anglo-Saxon history, has played a key role in the development of the English national identity. Everybody hear that? The English national identity. So our history is preserved. It's preserved, y'all. Let's go here. So we know that the Solomonic dynasty or the Ethiopian Empire, right, which we claim our ancestors which we know that based on what I'm teaching you, the history would go further back than that term Ethiopians or Ethiopian or Ethiopia. Our history goes back before we even came here on this planet. They may manifest it in our truest, in our purest, in our righteous form. It was here before that. All right, as we can see, King Edgar the Peaceful was sitting, as what done already was sitting on the throne and the spaceship up in the stars. You know what I'm saying? So how we know that based on what we're being taught about the Middle Ages actually took place here on Earth? How we know they weren't these star beings that they were talking about on Earth? Because apparently they can't get there yet. They can't stay there yet. But yet they doing all this study about that, which they knew nothing of. So how we know that these ain't your ancestors? I'm proving they are your ancestors because as a result of what we call Aslan. Aslan is a noble name and it's the only way you can get on the king's ship. All right? The king's ship. All right? So in order for you to understand and close the gap in the history of who you are, you must understand what took place in that missing gap and link of time. This, you must go back to what we call the Eighth Crusades. Because according to the 6,000 year timeline, time is up. Time is up. Your creation started in 3761 and it ended in 5784, which is the year 2023. Let's just qualify it. 3761, creation story. All right. 3761 creation story. And the birthday is 951. We're still here. We're still here. Let's look at 2023. You better pay attention. Why do you think these events are going on around the world? Game is over. As you can see, verb year 2973. That's our year. What is the Ethiopian year? 2015, 2016. So that's their year. So according to the calendar, Ethiopian year in 2023 is 2015. Aren't y'all behind time? Hebrew year, 5783. You definitely behind time. If the Hebrews saying that the year is 5783, and that's the year of the return of the Messiah. According to the 6,000 year timeline we just got here, Hebrew year 5784. Right there. So that brings me here. Eighth Crusade. You know, you can't get to an eighth crusade till you get to the first. I know the first crusade started with Godfrey of Bouillon. Right? You got to understand that history if you claim to be a part of those who are a part of Jerusalem. All right? These events didn't take place for nothing. So if you are claiming to be a descendant of Africa or Egypt, but Egypt goes to the seventh crusade. Because the seventh crusade and the eighth crusade all took place with a Frankish king called Louis IX. All right? We see it right here, Louis IX. The eighth crusade was the second crusade launched by the Louis IX of France, the one against the Hafiz dynasty of Tunisia in 1270, i.e., the Ethiopian Empire, i.e., the Solomonic dynasty, all right, that the Haile Selassie descended down from. It all started around the time of the Eighth Crusade. In 1270, the only one ruling in the Kingdom of England is Henry III from the Plantagenet crown. Despite failure of the Seventh Crusade, which was in England, not England, it was in Egypt, which ended the capture of Louis IX of France by the Mamelukes, i.e. the Ottoman Empire. The king did not lose interest in crusading. He continued to send financial aid and military support to the settlement in Aithiopia from 1254 to 1266, with the objective of eventually returning to the Holy Land. The Seventh Crusade officially ended on the 24th of April, 1254, with the departure of Louis IX of France from the Holy Land. He left Godfrey of Serginus as his representative with the official post of seneschal to the Kingdom of Jerusalem. All right. The belly of the kingdom was John of Evelyn of the house of Evelyn. All right. John of Evelyn of the house of Evelyn from the house of Flanders. I made all these connections a long time ago, y'all. A long time ago. So as we can see, the Eighth Crusade was the result of Louis IX invading Tunisia. Was it Tunisia? Tunisia, officially, Republic of Tunisia, is the northmost country in Africa. It's part of the Maghreb region of Northwest Africa. All right. Now we know Berber comes from England. All right. We looked it up. It's part of the Maghreb region of North Africa, bordering by Algeria to the west and southwest, Libya to the southeast. One second. and the Mediterranean Sea to the northeast. It features the archaeological site of Carthage dating back to the 9th century BC. Everybody hear that? So who is this Louis IX of France? We know Africa. Let's pull that up for all those who say they're African. R has to do with Libya. It all has to do with Libya. I mean, Libya is what those people, what they now call Ethiopians. We know that they are not Ethiopians, nor they Libyans. They are what they call Aetherians. All right? They are Aetherians. They have always been Aetherians. Why? Because they are that noble family called Aithō. And with that, we'll come to Louis IX in closing. Louis IX, commonly referred to as Saint Louis, was king of France from 1226 until his death of 1270. He's widely recognized as the most distinguished of the direct Capitan. Was this the House of Capet? As you can see here, Capitan and Plantagenet rivalry. All right, I'm in this. So Louis IX was up at House of Capet, and they had a rivalry with us. All right. Capitan and Plantagenet rivalry was a series of conflicts disputes that converted a period of 100 years from 1159 to 1259. During the House of Capet, rulers of the Kingdom of France fought the House of Plantagenet, also known as the House of Anjou, rulers of the Kingdom of England. You hear that? So the Kingdom of England was the rulers of the House of Anjou under the authority of the House of Plantagenet, established by Godfrey V of Anjou. All right. To suppress it, it said the Kingdom of France fought the House of Plantagenet, also known as the House of Anjou, rulers of the Kingdom of England, to suppress the growing power of the Plantagenet controlled Angevin Empire. Some historians refer to this series of events as the First 100-Year War. You hear that? The First 100-Year War. Those first 100-year wars has resulted in the wars we're having to this present day. All right. So in closing, back to this. In closing, as you can see, King Edgar is carving this globalist with a cross on top of it. All right. I'm the reincarnation of King Edgar, who has already received the divine obligation to restore Earth to its divine state under the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, which is used in so many ways, because King Edgar was what we call the king of peace. And this is why, when you go back to the Solomon Temple, Solomon Temple goes back to the order of Melchizedek, right? And which Jesus sat at the right hand of the Father. As you can see, the Solonistic Temple goes back to the kingdom of Jerusalem, and no one was able to sit in that seat. As you can see, that seat is empty. So if the seat is empty, then Haile Selassie don't have the authority to sit in that seat. All right? He doesn't have that authority to sit in the seat. Because you see the globe, Crucifix Globus, right? But no one's sitting in that seat of authority because they don't have it. All right? Until now. Until now. that authority has been returned. So for all those who doubt who I am, who I say I am, you will surely see soon. All right, you will see soon. There are no happenings. As it said, in the beginning was the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst man. And I'm dwelling with you now. So with that, I'll say peace.